Good morning, grade 7 Aguinaldo. Good morning. So before you take your seat, Mr. Vice President, may you lead us a very short prayer. Mhm. Now, before you take your seat, I want you to check and align your chairs properly. And if there are any trashes around you, pick them up. And of course, those things that are not related in our subject, I want you to keep them all on your bag. Is that correct? Is that right? You get it? Okay. So you may now take your seat. Mr. Secretary, is there any absentees for today's class? Very well. So I am glad that every one of you in here right now. So before we go on onto our lesson proper, may I ask what was the lesson that we've discussed the last time? Yes, Mr. Di Guzman. So it is about verb. And when we say verb, what is this verb? What is our connotation regarding verb? Yes, Miss Baluyot. So action word. Now, Miss Elizabeth, may you give us an example of the so-called action word or the verb? Run. How about you? Walk. And you? Sing. So I bet you've learned from the previous lesson that we've talked about. So right now, before we go on and proceed to our next lesson, we're going to play a game first. So this game is called Stops, Question, and Answer. So now, what is the mechanic or the mechanics of this game? So as you can see, when I enter the room, I have a jar with me. And this jar, I'm going to give it to the person on the leftmost side of the first row. And then when I give the jar, I'm going to play a certain music because we have here an audio. I bring an audio with me. And then when the music stops, that's why we call it stops. When the music stops, the person who's holding this jar, we're gonna stand up, pick a paper from the inside as there are sets of paper, and then afterwards, from the paper that he or she have picked, he or she will gonna form a question from the paper that you picked. For example, I pick one, and the word that I've got is the word whose. So from that word, I'm gonna create a question, and the question that I'm going to create, the next person sitting after me, or sitting next to me, he or she will answer the question based, of course, on his or her perception. So the question that the person will gonna ask, of course, this should be known by many and should not be offending others or the seatmate that the person has. So let us begin the game. So you understand the mechanics? Okay, that's good. So here is the jar. So I'm gonna play the music. Okay, pass the jar. Oh yes, Miss Trisha. Pick a paper. And the word is, okay, what? So form a question out of the word. So, yes, Miss Stephanie. The question from Miss Trisha is that, what is your favorite color? Okay, so Miss Stephanie's favorite color is yellow. Okay, we got that, so let's proceed. Pass the chart. Okay, so Mr. Miles, stand up and pick a paper from the chart. And the word that you've got? Who? Okay, who? Then ask your seatmate a question from that word. So what would be your answer, Mr. Torres? Okay, so the question that Mr. De Leon or Mr. Miles asked is that who is our national hero? And Mr. Torres answered that our national hero is Mr. or Dr. Jose Rizal. Is that correct? So let's proceed with the game. Passenger, Mr. Miles. Yes, Miss Catherine, stand up please. Okay, kindly pick a paper. And the word that you've got? Okay, ask your seatmate with the question starting to the word or with the word when. When is your birthday? Okay, Miss Christine, when is your birthday? Thank you so much. So let's proceed. Yes, Miss Kimberly, may you stand up and pick a paper? And your word is where? May you create a question out of the word where? Yes, Miss Tihokos. Where do you live at, according to Miss Kimberly? Okay, so since we've already got a lot of responses, now what do you think so is our lesson? What do you think so is our lesson? Yes, Mr. Trigo. Something to do with questions. You got a point. How about you? Yes, Miss May? Everybody has a point. So before we go on and start with our lesson, here are our objectives for today's lesson. So yes, Miss Angela, may you read our class objective or our lesson objective? Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Miss Angela. So according to this one, for our today's objective, we need to identify the WH question in the short story. And then next one, we need to determine how these WH questions are being used and formulated. And of course, the last one, we're going to produce our very own short story that is answerable by the WH questions that we're going to tackle later. So since we already have our class objectives or our lesson objectives, may I know who among you have an idea regarding WH questions? Yes, Mr. Coral. So he said that WH questions are the question that we usually use. You have a point, Mr. Coral. Yes, you, Miss Likigan. Okay, so according to Miss Likigan, some of the example of WH questions are what, when, where, and so on and so forth. So for us to have a better understanding, when we say WH question, they say that it is known as the basic for information gathering. So when we say information gathering, so of course, WL question, like as what Ms. Likigan have mentioned, these are, for the example of these are what, when, where, why, and so on and so forth. Of course, when we try to ask question that starts with these WH words, of course, our main purpose is to gather factual, meaning those information that are not fictionated. Is that clear? Next one is that when we say WH question, they say that these are called interrogative word. Why is that so? Why is that so? Why do you think so that WH question are or WH questions are called interrogative word? Yes, Mr. Miles. Very good. You had a great idea. So, according to Mr. Miles, WH questions are called or are sometimes connotated as interrogative word because their main purpose sometimes is to interrogate, of course, for some factual answers. Next one, they say that in WH questions are or it has limitless answers. Why do you think so, class? Why do you think so that WH questions have have limitless answer? Is it an unlimited load like that? Yes. Great point. So basically, WH questions have limitless answers for the reason that they are not answerable by just yes or no. So they need a very deep explanation, or you need to elaborate the idea that you have for you to answer these WH questions that someone will gonna throw to you. So lastly, WH questions are known for being the child's ground floor. So they are known to be our very own child ground floor. Why do you say so? Or why do you think so? Great idea, Miss Stephanie. So WH questions are known to be the child's ground floor, or these are the basic foundation for conversation, of course. They use it mostly to converse. Next one is that for them to collect data that they can use for them to grow. And lastly, of course, these are used to enhance their communication skills and their social skills. So that is what we call WH questions. So now, do you have any questions, class, regarding WH question? Okay, so no more. So now we're going to know the different types or the different examples of these WH questions. So some are mentioned already a while ago by your classmate, Miss Likigan. She mentioned that we have the what, the where, the why, and the when, and so on and so forth. But this time, let's get more deep. So I have here sets of words. These are the very basic example of the WH question. Basically, for you guys that is grade 7, we only have 6 basic types of the WH question. We have the who, the why, the how, where, when, and why. But since I wanted to know much better, we're going to discuss 9 examples of the WH questions. So we have here, of course, I mentioned already the 6, the who, what, how, where, when, and why. And then additionally, we have the whom, the which, and the whose. So when we say, or when the WH word that we've got starts with the word who, what do you think it means? Or what do you think is the use of the WH word who? Yes, Mr. Trigo? So according to him, when we ask a WH word that starts with who, we're asking for a person. Is that correct? Let's see. Okay. Very good, Mr. Trigo. So when we ask a person or another person the questions that starts with who, Of course, we're asking an information regarding a certain person. It may be his name or a name of a person. So next is the question what. So when we ask the question what, they say that this question is a general type of question. What do you think? Why do you think so that it is the general type of a question? So when we say general type of a question, it only means that you can use what to replace the who and the other WH question. How is that happen? For example, we're going to replace who by asking what. For example, we're asking a name. Who are you? That's the question. And we want to use the what question. We're going to make it like this. What is your name? We already asked the name, which is also answerable by the question who. Next is the WH word which. So when we say or when we ask a question that started which, it only means that you are asking for a choice. Which bag do you prepare? Is it this one or this one? Of course, there is always a choice. And then for our next WH question is the question how. And when we say how, it tackles about manner, how a certain thing or a certain process is being done. How do you go to school? Of course, you're going to explain it process or step by step. You take a bus and so on and so forth. So for our next WH question, we have here the question where. So when we ask a person a question that starts with where, we're asking for a place. What kind of place? Of course, a concrete place. Something that is seen by many. It can be also in figuratively saying, but somehow we literally ask a person the question where when we're asking for a literal place. And for our next WH question, we have here the question whose. So when we ask a question whose, we are asking for a possession. So when we ask the question whose, we're asking for possession. Very good. So when we say possession, for example, whose bag is this? Meaning, we're asking for the owner of that certain bag. So for our next WH question, it is the question when. So when we ask when, it is usually interrelated to numbers, very good. But usually it is related with time. So time includes seasons. It can be the literal time. It can be seasons. So next is the question why. So of course, lots of you usually ask for whys. Why is it like this? Why is it like that? And so on and so forth. So meaning when we ask the question why, we're asking for reason or a motive. Is that clear? Still following me? Okay, very good. Now for our last WH question, we have here the question whom. What do you think so, or what do you think the use of the question WH question whom? Yes, Miss Baluyo. You have a point. Thank you so much for that. So when we say or when we ask for the question that starts with whom, we are referring to object of the verb. Is that clear? So, who receives the action? Whom do you give? For example, whom do you give the gift that you buy? So that is the example for the question whom. So one more time, we have here 9 WH question. Who, it is used to ask for a person. What is for our general question. Which, of course, there is a choice. And how, the question how, it's asking for a manner. Where is for place. Whose for possession. When is for time. And the question why is for a reason or a motive. Whom is for the object of the verb or the one. We're asking for the one who receives the action. Is that clear? Okay. So now, for us to deeper understand this WH question, I will post here a story on the board, and I will give you 3 minutes or 3 to 4 minutes to read the story quietly, okay? So the story that we have here is entitled The Proud Rose. So I've got this one on the side where short stories are being written from some anonymous person. So as we all know, there are some sort of blog sites roaming around the internet, and during this phase, these are usually or truly helpful for us. So read the story silently for about 3 to 4 minutes. Okay? Read silently, guys. Done? 2 more minutes. Be mindful, understand what you're reading. Okay, guys, are you done? Are you done? Okay. So now for the last time, I'm going to read the story aloud. So the short story that we have here is entitled The Proud Rose. So here's the story goes. Once upon a time in a desert far away, there was a rose who was so proud of her beautiful looks. Her only complaint was growing next to a very ugly cactus. Every day, the beautiful rose would insult and mock the cactus on his looks, all while the cactus remained quiet. All the other plants nearby tried to make the rose sense, but she was too swayed by her own looks. One scorching summer, the desert became dry. There was no water left for the plants. The rose quickly began to wilt. Her beautiful petals dried up, losing their lush colors. Looking to the cactus, the rose, she saw a sparrow dip his beak onto the cactus to drink some water. Though ashamed, the rose asked the cactus if she could have some water. The kind cactus readily agreed, helping them both through the tough summer as a friend. Do you understand the short story? Okay. So now, we've already read the short story. For this moment, I will ask you some questions relating to the short story. As you can remember, we are discussing about the WH question. So for our first question, who do you think is the protagonist in the short story? Yes, Miss Baluyot. She mentioned that it is the cactus. So for us to better understand this one, I will group you into 4 groups, and we're gonna do a group activity. This one will gonna enhance your thinking skills regarding formulating question, WH question specifically. So for our first group, it will be the first line, the first row. Second group, of course, the second. Third group is the third line, the third row. And for our fourth group, the fourth row and the rest. Is that clear? Okay, so now I want you to form a circle within your group. So form a circle. Okay, so please be quiet. So what I want you to do is that on your group, on the group that you have right now, so you're already on a circle, I want you to formulate some questions related on the short story that we have read, The Proud Rose. So at least 5 questions. You're going to formulate 5 questions within your group, and I want you to write it on a paper, maybe a cartolina or a Manila paper. And then after 3 minutes, so you're gonna brainstorm for 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, you will select one representative on your group that will share to the class the questions that your group have formulated. Is that clear? Any questions? Any questions before you start? So we're clear. So now you can start your work. So guys, work silently, okay? Yes, any questions? 2 minutes. At least 5 questions only, okay? And if possible, make it different or ask questions using different WH questions for the WH word. 1 minute. Sort your ideas. Are you done? So those groups that already finished their work, you can go back to your seats, align it again properly, and post your work on the board. Let me post it here. Just gonna remove this one. Okay, group 1, you may start sharing your collaborative work. Oh, you're a representative? Oh, so Mr. Dillian, go on, present your work. So for the presentation of your work, there will be allotted 2 minutes for you to share to the class the questions that your group have brainstormed. Is that okay? Okay. Proceed. Thank you so much, Mr. De Leon. So group 2, your representative, please. Thank you so much, Miss Baluyot. Okay, now group 3. Okay, thank you so much for those ideas, Miss Bonavente. You may now take your seats. And for our last group, may you stand up, the representative of last of the group 4, to share your work here on the front. Okay, go on. So thank you so much for the group 4, and of course for our group 1, 2, and 3. May you give yourself class a round of applause. Okay. So every one of you guys have a brilliant idea on how to formulate a questions out of the things that we've discussed a while ago, and of course out of the story that we have read. So now I've noticed that each of the group has their own strategy to create a WH question, but what is really the way for us to formulate this WH question? Do you have guys any idea? So, none? Anyone? Any idea on how to create a WH question? Okay, thank you so much. So, for us to formulate or to create WH questions, there are two identified ways to create and formulate WH question. So for our first one, we have here with an auxiliary. So what is this auxiliary that we're talking about? Are you familiar with auxiliary verbs or the words that we've used to help certain words? Okay, so those are the words that this one is pertaining to. So what would be the process for this one, for us to formulate this WH question? So we have here certain pattern. Of course, for our first way to create a WH question, of course, we have our WH word. WH word. And then since we have or we're gonna use an auxiliary, we're going to add, what are we going to add? Okay, an auxiliary word. So let's make it aux. And then after our auxiliary word, what would be the next? So we have the subject. And of course, we can't have a question without our main verb. And then, since it's a question, we need to have question mark. So, what would it be? We have the WH, the auxiliary, our auxiliary word, our subject, and the action word. So, may you give us, yes, Mr. Coral, may you give us an example of a question that follows this process? Thank you so much for your idea. So, for this process, as we can see, we have the WH word. Give me a WH word. Okay. We have the WH word why. So write the word why. And any auxiliary? The word should. So again, the why word is for reason. Reason and motive. So we have the auxiliary word should and any subject. Okay, we. A pronoun. And for our main verb, read. So is the thought complete? If we're going to read it, why should we read? So a question, is that correct? So if ever that you wanted to add an object, you can. So for example, I wanted to write here an object with my question. So that will be, why should we read magazine? So our object is magazine. So this is our object, our verb, our subject, our auxiliary, and our H word or the WH word. So do you understand the first process or the first way to formulate a question or the WH question? Okay, that's great. So for the next way for us to create a WH question, we have here the process that we're not gonna use any auxiliary word. So how are we going to do that? So same process, but we're going to make some parts. We have the WH word, and we're going to proceed mainly to our main verb. And the other parts can follow, but without our auxiliary word. Of course, the question mark. So may someone give us an example of a questions that follow this process? Yes, Mr. Torres. Okay, great idea. How about you, Miss Kimberly? Thank you so much. Yes, Miss De Hawkers. Thank you so much for your ideas. So here it goes. Still the same process. Write the WH word. So if we're gonna write the WH word, remember it's use. So the WH word would be who. So give me a verb. Okay. The plus sign. One. And what would be our subject? Is it already correct? Okay, you said it's already correct. Then, of course, do not forget the question mark. So the word who is, of course, our WH word. One, the word one, is our verb. The game is our subject. Of course, this is an article. So, any questions regarding the process or the ways for us to formulate a WH question? Any questions? Questions, guys? Okay, so since we're already clear regarding how we're going to formulate a WH question, we're going to go back to the story that we've read a while ago. What again the title of the one? Okay, The Proud Rose. So I've already asked one question. So this time, yes, Miss Delia, can you stand up? Where did this story takes place? Okay, in the desert. Second question, yes, Miss Stephanie, kindly stand up. Who are the characters in the stories? Okay, so the cactus and, of course, the rose. Yes, Miss Baluya, kindly stand up. When did the story takes place? So I'm asking about the time. Summer. Okay, great idea. And for our last question, what do you think is the relevant and the message of the story that we've just read? Yes, Miss Trisha. So according to Miss Trisha, the message of the story is that for us to never judge someone by the way they look. So I just want to remind you guys that not everybody that we've seen physically is who they really are. Remember, everyone can evolve. You may, or she may be good at these things, but you don't know that she also has some weak points. So, for us to better clarify the flow of our discussion, go again with the same group that you have, and this time, we're going to apply the knowledge that we've learned. So, I want you, so each group, form again a circle. 1, in a count of 5, I want you already on your own group. 2, faster, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so what you're going to do is that you're going to create a short skit showing or performing your daily routine. It can be, for example, you're going to school, or when your mother is yelling at you. So any daily encounters that you have, and make it a sort of short story. So just a very short skit for about 3 minutes. Perform it 3 minutes, 3 minutes, and then I'm gonna give you a task card. But before that, here is the criteria for our group activity. Yes, any question, Miss Leocos? Yeah. Any daily encounters that you have, it may be on your home, on your way here, going to school, or any funny moments that you've encountered or you have experienced. So for our criteria for judging, we have here the relevance to the topic. I've already mentioned that it should be a daily or regarding your daily encounter. So do not create a short skit that is somehow unrealistic. So it will be 10 points if the group executed the performance that is connected to the topic. So next criteria is that your group cooperation. So what does it say? You will get, or each group are gonna get 5 points if everyone or each member of your group cooperate and shows unity. For our last criteria, we have the time management, as it is really important. So 5 points if you finish your given task on the exact given time. Is that clear? Any questions? So may I have the representative for each group? Kindly stand up. Group 1. Group 2? Okay. Kindly read the instruction, okay? There's also a criteria inside the task card. 3. Group 4. Where is the representative of Group 4? Okay, here is it, your task card. So, thank you so much. Kindly work on quietly. And your 3 minutes starts now. So be mindful, there are questions that you need to answer within the short skit that you're going to create. So it's already written on the task cards. 2 minutes. Yes, question? Yeah, it's alright. You can approach me if there's any questions that is bothering you. Okay, done. So let's have the group 1. So group 2, you will be the one to rate the group 1. Thank you so much, group 1. Group 2. Thank you so much. Group 3. 4. Okay. So since everyone demonstrated properly and have shown us the questions that is being answered by the short skits that they've shown, so just wanted to inform everyone that each group has the same question that goes, what happened, or what is the short skits about, when did it take place, of course, where did it take place, why did it happen, and how did that scenario happen. So now, since everyone is showing a knowledge regarding the topic that we've discussed, so is there any question before we go on to our evaluation? Is there any questions that you want to ask regarding the topic? So, yes. Yeah? Okay, so Mr. Mark asked if WH question is the only type of question that you as a student could ask. Actually, there are two types of question. We have, of course, the WH question, and the second one is the yes or no type of question, or we have the open-ended question, the yes or no, and the closed-ended question. So when we say yes or no, only answerable by yes or no, and like what we've discussed, the WH, which is we need to dig deeper to find the factual answer. So this time, any questions before we go on and take our quiz? Yes, any questions? Okay, no more. So now I want you to bring out a 1/2 sheet of paper crosswise. Write your name, of course, the grade in section, and then the date today. Yes, question? Crosswise. Ready? Is everyone ready? Okay. So, listen carefully. I'm going to read the question twice and the choices only once. For the question number 1, what we're going to do is that you're going to write the letter of the correct answer on your paper. So there are some sort of questions here, but you have to fill out for you to get the correct answer. So for our number 1, blank did you see earlier today? And the answer would be, I saw James, the new football player. Blank did you see earlier today? I saw James, the new football player. A, who, B, which, C, how. Number 2, blank did you do last week? I watched movies and played hockey. Blank did you do last week? I watched movies and played hockey. A, who, B, what, C, whom. Number 3, blank will you leave? After the meeting. Blank will you leave after the meeting? A, whom, 3, B, who, C, when. Number 4, blank is David. He's still fine. Thanks for asking. Number 4, blank is David. He is still fine. Thanks for asking. A, who, B, whom, and C, how. Number 5, blank ball is this? It's next. Number 5, blank ball is this? It's next. A, who, B, whose, 3, whom. Next number 6, blank gave you this present. That was my boyfriend Harry. Again, blank gave you this present. That was my boyfriend Harry. A, whom, B, who, C, whose. Again, A, who, B, whom, C, whose. Number 7, blank did he not come? Blank did he not come? He was busy all day. A, how, B, why, and C, when. Number 8, blank suitcase is mine. Blank suitcase is mine. The blue one. The other is James. A, who, B, whose, and letter C, which. Number 9. Blank long did it take to make such a big cake? It took 2 hours. Again, blank long did it take to make such a big cake? It took 2 hours. Letter A, what? Letter B, when? And C, how? For our last number, blank was the weather like on Monday? It was raining a lot. Number 10, blank was the weather like on Monday? It was raining a lot. So letter A, how? B, when? C, what? You guys finish? Okay, so exchange your paper with your seatmate. Write check by, and of course the day to day. Okay, ready? So for number 1, A. Check the paper of the one that you're checking. 1A, 2B, 3C, 4C, 5B, 6A, 7, 8C. Following me? Okay. Number 9, C. And for the last number, C. So write the score on the topmost part, right topmost part. Give back the paper to the owner. Okay, so check your work if there's any mistake on checking. So I want you to raise your hand if ever you got the score that I'm going to mention. So who've got 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. So 37 got the score of 10. So very good. How about 9? 9 points. Who got 9 points? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 8 students got 9 points. So very good. You still learn. How about 8 points? Who got 8 points? Anyone who got 8 points? Mr. Secretary, how many are you in the class? Okay, alright, I get it. So, you're 45 in the class. It seems that almost everyone perfect the exam or the quiz that I have given. So I bet you've learned a lot from this topic. So before we end our lesson, may someone summarize it for us? Oh yes, Mrs. Stephanie, kindly summarize the lesson that we've covered. Okay, thank you so much. Yes, you wanted to add, Miss Baluyot? So very good. So we've tackled about, of course, the WH, and we've tackled its purpose, its use, and the various kinds of the WH questions. So since you've already learned a lot and we're running out of time, take note of this one. We're going to have an agreement. I want you to pass it tomorrow. So this one, through the Microsoft Word Office, you're gonna create your own short story by applying your knowledge and understanding of the WH question. You're going to use, or you're gonna follow this format: Arial 12, then your spacing should be 1.5 and 1 inch the margin on all sides, and use short bond paper or letter size. Of course, you need to print it out for you to pass it on. Is that clear? Clear? Any questions? Questions, grade 7 Aguinaldo? Okay. So, since everything is clear, thank you so much for listening, guys. Thank you so much for paying an active attention towards our discussion. So, see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for listening.